The Belgians, Chapter 5, Work and Prosperity. Post-war survey. Belgium made a faster recovery after the Second World War than other European countries, partly because it had suffered comparatively little war damage and partly because attempts to put the currency back on a sound basis were successful. However, this recovery was short-lived. By the 50s, economic performance was beginning to slump. What had been the advantage after the war later proved to be disadvantage. Belgium was saddled with an antiquated industrial culture. Moreover, traditional heavy industries such as coal and steel and the textile industry were the cornerstone of the Belgian industry, and this sector were coming increasingly under threat. In the 50s and 60s, so-called mixed economies were developed. Belgium is a typical example. The system provides for cooperation between employees, employers and government, organized on a social economic level by all sorts of consultative bodies. The Ministry of Social Security was set up as early as September 28, 1944. It worked out schemes relating to old age pension, compulsory sickness insurance, invalidity and involuntary unemployment, child benefit and holiday allowance. The intention was to protect the Belgians against the vagaries of the economies. In reality, it was seen as a right to employment, a means toward increased purchasing power and the fair distribution of income. The government had to exercise its considerable power to implement the schemes. During this period, large-scale public works programs were begun. The law of August 9th, 1955 established a road fund for building motorways, and the law of July 5th, 1956 prepared the way for large-scale development work at the port of Antwerp. In the Brussels region, major infrastructure work was carried out in connection with the 1958 World Fair. The result of all this activity was a government deficit. In 1960, the so-called single law came to effect, bringing tax increase and fewer subsidies. The silver 50s were followed by the golden 60s. Between 1960 and 1974, the gross national product increased by average of 5% annually. The Planning Bureau was set up in 1959 to lead the desire for expansion and economic optimism. Wage levels rose to the highest in Europe, and durable consumable goods and luxury products lay within reach of almost everyone. But at the same time, criticism of the welfare state began to grow. Not for everyone benefited equally from progress. The nature of the protest became increasingly alarming, resulting, for example, in the student revolt of May 68. The media were paying more and more attention to the polluting and other negative effects of economic growth. The report of the Club of Rome only added to the general climate of dissatisfaction. Then came the Yom Kippur War, 1973. Once the OPEC country had announced an oil embargo against Israel allies, oil price quadrupled within a very short space of time. The transfers of profit to the oil-producing countries diminished the purchasing power of the Western industrialized country. The inflation rate accelerated. In 1974, prices reached almost 60%. By linking wage to the retail price index, nominally income rose substantially. In fact, they rose even faster than prices. All this led to high inflation, rising unemployment, a fall in productivity, at work and a negative trade balance during the second half of the 70s. The level of unemployment increased from 4% in 1970 to 7.1% in 1978 and to 11.5% in 1981. In 1983, at the height of the crisis, the unemployment reached 13%. The Belgian government took back by creating more jobs in the public service and by giving increased help to unemployed employment programs in the private sector. Social security payments were also extended, leading to a sharp rise in government expenditure. The interest burden in the government debt also grew, thereby reducing the margin for further government expenditure. The 80s. The economy seemed to be recovering slowly at the end of the 70s, but war in the Gulf in 1980 resulted in a second oil crisis. 1981 saw a decline in the gross national product. Between 1974 and 1984, growth in the GNP averaged 1.3% compared with 5% in the previous decade. The general climate of malaise gradually gave rise to the view that only an effective structural economic policy would boost the economy. The voices of those economists who favored a new producer-oriented government policy with a neoliberal and monetary bias grew louder and louder. 1982 saw the formation of a cabinet of Christian Democrats and liberals, which implemented this policy in which income restraint played a vital role. Its first policy was the recovery of the international competitive strength of Belgian companies. Devaluation of the Belgian franc by 8.5% in February 1982 provided the starting shot. Major wage sacrifices and cuts in the social sector followed. Another aspect of policy during this period was the reduction of the government deficit and the public debt. The interest payable on the debt was very high and limited government scope for implementing an active employment policy. The net amount that needed to be financed in 1982 totaled 12.4% of the gross national product. Another aspect of policy reducing this period was the reduction of the government deficit and the public debt. Interest payable on the debt was very high and limited government scope was implementing an active employment policy. The net amount that needed to be financed in 1982 totaled 12.4% of the gross national product. Belgium had a debt ratio which was 2 times larger than the OECD average. In the second phase of the recovery policy, the government concentrated on putting government finance back on a healthy footing. From the end of the 70s, the interest burden also began to rate on the state social package of debts, with the so-called Crocus Plan and the St. Anna Saving Plan. 1984 and 1986. The government succeeded in pushing the deficit down to 8.1% of the gross national product in 1987 to 7.8% in 1989. Drastic savings were realized by making changes in the social security and increasing taxation. It was not long before all these measures bore fruit. After 1984, Belgium benefited from the revival in the world economic situation. There was a marked increase in export, one of the vital strengths behind Belgium's economic growth. Growth in investment, both private residential building and the business investment, was among the highest in the OECD groups of countries in the 80s. Inflation came down, and unemployment still remained high at first, but the end of the 80s brought signs of a downward trend. Nevertheless, unemployment figures remained high. Inflation in Belgium stood at 3.5% in 1990, euro 12, 6%. In 1988, the average Belgian produced 277 kg of household waste compared with 110 kg in 1950. Companies produced 10 times more waste than household. Statistic. Gross national product per inhabitant 1988 in ECU. Denmark, from the highest to the lowest. 17,738. Germany, 16,566. Luxembourg, 4,878. In Luxembourg, it was 14,878. In France, it was 40,425. In the Netherlands, it was 1,294. In Belgium, it was 1,254. In Italy, it was 12,215. In the United Kingdom, it was 12,200. In Ireland, it was 7,771. In Spain, it was 7,383. In Greece, it was 4,447. In Portugal, it was 3,816. And in the Euro 12, it was 12,439. Next page. The burden of the Belgian taxation. Taxation has come down since 1985. Fiscal charges and local taxes as percentage of the GNP. 1985. Taxation. 32.1. Indirect tax 19.3. Indirect tax taxation 32.1. Direct tax 92.3. Indirect tax 12.5. Tax on capital 0.3. Social security contribution 15.3. Total 47.4. 1989. Taxation 29.2. Indirect tax 16.5. Indirect tax 12.4. Tax on capital 0.3. Social security contribution 14.8. Total 44. Between 1960 and 1985, the average taxation levied, including local taxes, rose from 26% to 47%. This increase is explained by the need of finance growing expenditure, discretionary tax increase, and the automatic increase as a result of the growth in the GNP. Taxation has come down since 1985. In Europe, the small countries may pay the highest average taxes. These countries have also seen the fastest rise in taxation since 1960. Belgium held a middle position until 1970, but since 1975 has been among the top 5. The rate of increase of in Belgium between 1970 and 1985 was also above the EC average. Coal and steel manufacturing drew a whole chain of support companies to Wallonia. However, after 1960, it was mainly Flanders that experienced a true industrial revolution when it transferred from agriculture and light processing industries such as textiles to chemical industry, metal processing, electrotechnical companies, and new technologies. Foreign investors were attracted by sizable labor reserve, the peaceful social climate, the relative low wage, and the good infrastructure. It was largely the seaport on the Antwerp-Ghent-Brussels triangle that shaped the success, but big towns like Kortrijk, Hasselt, Liège, and Charleroi were also growth areas. In Wallonia, in general, the new wave of investment was somewhat smaller, though the Walloon authorities are now trying all sorts of initiatives to restore growth to the region. Also, I forgot a statistic. Taxation in the European community in relation to the GNP. In Belgium, it increased from 1960 to 1990 from 26 to 42. In the Netherlands, it increased, Denmark increased, they all increase, and the most increasing, I think, is Denmark. So the EG is 28.4 to 42.6. So Belgium is at the middle point of calling of taxation in the European community in relation to the GNP. Regional differences. And up until 1960, Belgian industry was centered in Nassau and the province in Wallonia and in the province of Hainaut and Liège in particular. Economic profile of the boroughs. So there are some boroughs in Belgium that are splitted in at different places. They are rare and it's like a point on little point very separated from each other and rare. Boroughs with industry and service industries, a little bit. So now, it was it red, now it is the skin color. The color of the white skin. Industrial boroughs. A lot around Ghent, a lot around Anvers, some in a lot of in Flanders, in big Flanders city, and really not a lot in Wallonia. Prosperous residential boroughs around Brussels and the two Brabant. Dormitory boroughs. So they are around Brussels and in the east border between Wallonia and Flanders. So now in green boroughs with service industries, a lot in Wallonia and a little bit in Flanders. In the area where there is not much people, and agricultural areas. It's like the boroughs with service industry. They are close to each other. More in Wallonia. Real growth in the gross national product per inhabitant in percentage from 1981 to 1988. So, what? I don't see. What the hell? There is a graphic, but there is a pink line going up. There is a light blue line going down, then up, and there is a blue line going up, then down, and up, and down, and up. So in percentage, the blue goes up from less 1% to 1%. The pink goes to 0 to 5, and the light blue come to 1 to 5. Around. Well, I couldn't find in the book what does it mean, but I guess it's first Wallonia. Wallonia goes up and down. Flanders get slowly up, then very up, and Brussels go down, then a little bit up. So, beyond the Belgian border, the Belgian economy has always gravitated strongly towards foreign markets. Around the turn of the century, for example, Belgian companies were involved in laying railways all over the world. The great demand from abroad also largely responsible for the expansion of the Golden 60s. Foreign trade is vital importance to the Belgian economy. But it also means that Belgium is very sensitive to the market or development of its major trade partners. Belgium has no exportable natural raw material. Consequently, its reports are mainly for manufactured goods. Finished and half-finished products account for 3/4 of Belgian exports. More than 80% of Belgian exports are destined for other European countries. Similarly, 80% of Belgian imports derive from other European countries. Between 1980 and 1989, imports rose by 85% and exports by 108%. In 1988, the Flemish region was responsible for 74% of the industrial goods sent abroad. The Walloon region for 22% and the Brussels region for 5%. Belgium exports 12 billion francs worth of goods every working day. Statistic. National contribution to Belgium export of industrial products. 1988 v.1980 point in percentage. 1980. Flemish region 69%, Walloon region 26%, Brussels capital region 6%. 1988. Flemish region 74%, Walloon region 22%, Brussels capital region 5%. Belgium main customers and suppliers. 1989 in billion of BEF. Belgian franc, I guess. Customers. Suppliers. Okay. So for the customers, in number and percentage, in billion of Belgian franc, it's France with 820%. FRG 744 with 19%. The Netherlands with 540 with 14%. United Kingdom 370 9.4%. Italia 251 for 6.4%. So the suppliers FRG 912 for 23.5%. The Netherlands is 683 17.6%. France is 578 4.9%. United Kingdom it's there is also a problem, I guess 306 7.9%, and USA for 179 for 4.6%. Now, born exporters. Belgians are born exporters on a worldwide scale. They rank ninth among the great commercial powers, and Belgium is even the leader among the group of industrial nations from the point of view export per inhabitant. You can see on the picture Prince Albert presenting the 1991 Oscar for export for the director of ATEA, the well-known exporter of telephones. More than 10,000 of our company export, and in most cases they dispatch more than half of their output abroad. Certain clear factors explain this remarkable success. The privileged location of the country and its well-developed roads infrastructure, which allow fast and easily access to foreign companies, whether they be situated in Germany, France, or in the Netherlands. However, there is more. Our century-old commercial tradition, our marked specialization in certain type of product, and the legendary flexibility of Belgian businessmen when dealing with their foreign partners are equally and without doubt so many reasons for the development of the phenomenon of Belgian exports. Moreover, many Belgian companies have become leaders in a whole series of products at an European level and even at world level. We may cite, among others, the example of buses, billiard balls, cyclotrons, diamonds, vaccines, pharmaceutical products, sweets, road gun films, steel wire, transformers, carpeting, weaving looms, or a yacht. However, exports are not limited simply to goods. The export of services also play a very important role. Indeed, Belgian companies have built every electric power station in Mexico, factories for the production of telecommunication equipment in China, harbors in Thailand, hospitals in Russia, tower blocks in the United States, Emirates. Specialized Belgian companies are working on supplying the lighting system for the Channel Tunnel, sailing boats for Caribbean cruises, or have been entrusted with the dredging of a new harbor in Hong Kong. This success is, of course, worthy of the encouragement of a prince. For more than 20 years, Prince Albert of Belgium, the brother of the king in his capacity as president of the Belgian Office of Foreign Trade, has conducted missions with a view to encouraging export to the 5 continents. Each year, the prince awards an Oscar to export to a dozen Belgian entrepreneurial exporters. After all, the champion of export also deserve Oscars, whether they export carbonated water, telephone exchange, or banking software. Incomes. Most Belgians have earned incomes. Office workers earn an average of 40% more than blue-collar work. In addition to an income from work, a high percentage of the population benefit from social services. These services have been planned with extreme care. Belgium is one of the countries, together with Luxembourg, the Netherlands, West Germany, France, and Denmark, that spends more on social protection per head of the population than the European average. If the European average is 100 BEF, then Belgium spends 111 BEF. A large proportion of the expenditure on social security goes to senior citizens, 35% in 1988, medical care, 32%, and unemployment, 17%. In 1988, the gross wage of a male blue-collar worked in industry averaged 335 BEF. For women, it was 252 BEF. The gross monthly salary of a male white-collar worked in industry averaged 85,395 BEF. For women, this was 54,925 BEF. The average pension is 49% of the last salary. Statistics. Breakdown of social security payments in percentage. From 1970 to 1988, pension stayed the same. Healthcare goes a little bit up. Pensions is 34 to 34. Healthcare is 31 to 32. Family allowance 22 to 10.5. Unemployment benefit 3.7 to 16.6. Other 8 to 6. Share in the GNP 13 to 19.5. Social insurance payment as percentage of the GNP 1988. The Netherlands is up with 30.7, then Belgium 28, Denmark, France, Germany, Luxembourg, United Kingdom, Italy, Ireland, Spain and Portugal with 17. So they all a little bit always go down, like be 1 or 2 points of percentage, you know. Poverty. 1 in 5 households is financially insecure. Despite all the effort on the part of the government to provide adequate and fair social protection, a high percentage of the population still find itself living in financial insecurity. Between 1 in 4 and 1 in 5 households is financially insecure, and 5%, Euro 12, 14%, is caught in poverty trap. What is remarkable is that despite the 1976 to 1985 economic crisis, financial insecurity was not increased. However, we now find other groups hit. While senior citizens are more financially insecure as a result of the improved pension schemes, the number of impecunious young people and unemployed has increased. The Belgian social security system ensures that people do not fall below the poverty line. Unemployment benefits are ample and family allowances are generous and universal, and this financial contribution reflects on the cost of living. Finally, the guaranteed subsistence level acts as a safety net. All these factors contribute to there being proportionately fewer poor people in Belgium than in the other European countries. Statistics. Proportion of poor household 1985. Belgium 5.2, the Netherlands 7.9, Denmark 8, Germany 9.2, Italy 14.7, France 14.8, Greece 17.4, Ireland 17.4, Spain 17.8, United Kingdom 18.9, Portugal 31.9. Proportion of the Belgian population that consider certain items necessary and its position of those items. Item. Percentage which is considered item as necessary. Percentage in position of item. Code. 97% wanted. 97.6% think it's necessary, and 3.9% don't have it. Damp-free housing, 97.5% important, 7.8% don't have it. We see in the house, 97.3% important, 4.9% don't have it. Heating in the living room, 96.9%, 3.1% don't have it. A refrigerator, 96.2%, important, 2.7% don't have it. Meat or fish meal, 94% find it important, and 4.9% find it not important. Not possession of the item. Bath or shower, 93% find it important, 10% don't have it. Water light shoes, Watertight shoes. 89% find it important, 9.3 don't have it. Regular savings. 84.5% find it important, 39.4 don't have it. Telephone. 64.3% find it important, 17.3 don't have it. Car. 68% find it important, 24.3 don't have it. One weekend holiday. 56% find it important and 50% don't have it. Color TV. 54% find it important, 13% don't have it. Central heating. 45.2% find it important, 36.3% don't have it. Central heating. 45% find it important, 36% don't have it. Daily newspaper. 31.1% find it important, 54% don't have it. Vacuum cleaner. 79.5% find it important, 10.4% don't have it. Video recorder. 8.1% find it important, 75.5% don't have it. Next page. We can see a man looking throughout a window, and now we can see a woman in a shoes market. How many Belgians work? The proportion of people employed is determined by the size of the population and the percentage of people in work. The end of the 70s and the beginning of the 80s saw two trends. More young people were looking for jobs, while only a small number of old people were retiring. This coincided with the cut in jobs and industry and led to a sharp rise in unemployment. Today we have a different picture. Many people are dropping out of the workforce and relatively few young people are looking for work. Consequently, the population at working age has stabilized since the mid-80s. It is not even beginning to fall. In recent years, the employment rate among men, the number of men that actually work, has fallen, at least among the younger and older age group. The figure for 25 to 50-year-old men is fairly stable. The drop in the number of younger people is linked no longer schooling and the drop in number of old people to early pension. The employment rate as a whole among men is on the decrease. However, this is not the case with women, where the number of working 20 to 45-year-old has increased over the last few decades, a trend that is set to continue for some time to come. The total employment rate among women is on the increase. It is called feminization of the workforce. Number of people employed by the government out of the total working population was 20% in 1989. In the 1970, it was 14%. The number of women in the total workforce was 41% in 1988 and 32% in 1970. After the Second World War, 3 out of 10 25 to 29-year-old women went out to work. Now it is 8 out of 10. After the Second World War, 7 out of 10 60 to 64-year-old males went out of work. Now it is just 2 out of 10. Oh, you can see the mailman, the man that sent letters. Where do people work? In 1974, 3,750,000 people worked. In 1984, that number fell to 3,540,000, which means that 200,000 works were lost in the space of 10 years. The situation began to change in 1985. In the period 1985 to 1988, the number of jobs increased by 100,000. There were big differences between men and women. Between 1974 and 1988, the number of working males fell by almost 300,000, but the number of working women increased by 160,000. The number of self-employed and the number of helpers, family members who attribute but are unpaid, remained unchanged between 1975 and 1985. This group has even growing since then, and the number of self-employed people is now about 20%. It is the service sector that the number of self-employed people is increasing, while in industry it remains stable and in agriculture it is falling. Between 1974 and 1988, almost 500,000 jobs 500,000 jobs were lost in industry, where four of the 5 jobs were taken by men. In the service sector, which employs a high percentage of women, 360,000 jobs were created. This is mainly the result of an increase of jobs in the government sector, where 100,000 additional jobs were created between 1974 and 1988. Almost 1 million Belgians work in the public sector. Working hours have been greatly reduced, only to 38 to 39 hours, main to the former 45 hours week. The length of the annual holidays has increased from 3 weeks in the 60s to more than 1 month today. Part-time work was also increased. The proportion of part-time work in the national employment rate total rose from 3% in 1973 to 11% in 1989. Part-time work is particularly popular among women. 23% of female workers are employed on a part-time basis. 3 out of 4 self-employed pursue these activities as their main activities. 90% of part-time jobs are in the service sector. 9 out of 10 male workers are employed in the service sector. 27% of the self-employed are women. The government sector employs 52% men and 48% women. The Flemish region provides 59% of the jobs in the private employment, the Wallon sector 24%, and the Brussels region 17%. In 1989, there were 52,183 male and 388 female professional servicemen, and 38,687 male doing their military service. Next picture is 2 page, and it is some kind of train station, red train with a woman in the background. It is very beautiful, but I can't turn the page. Sea fishing. Belgian fishing is concentrated in the port of Zeebrugge, Ostend and Newport. There are now fewer ships than before. However, the gross tonnage remains unchanged, and the volume of the catches per ship has increased. The industry also tries to satisfy the growing demand for quality fish, such is to be found mainly outside the coastal waters. Belgium sea fishing is subject to quotas, which are fixed for each E.C. Members state so as to ensure that stocks of certain sort of fish, e.g. herrings and sole, are maintained. We can see fishermen working on a port. Oh, it's all? Okay. Modernized industry. In the 19th century, Belgium was the first country on the European continent to be caught up in the Industrial Revolution, which has started in Great Britain. Not that Belgium had to start from scratch. Ever since the Middle Ages, Flanders had a well-developed cotton industry, and Wallonia had experience in arm manufacture and metal construction work. In Wallonia, there were Also coal reserves, which have been mined since the 13th century, albeit on a small scale. Between 1840 and 1880, the annual growth in industrial production often reached more than 5%. The number of people employed in industry rose from 806,000 in 1846 to 1,069,000 in 1910. Nevertheless, the First World War, and to a lesser extent the Second, had a disastrous influence on the industrial apparatus. After 1945, Belgium was successful in attracting substantial investment. Total expansion took place mainly in the chemical sector, metal industry, wood and furniture industry, energy sector, and the glass industry. Growth was concentrated mainly in Flanders, where great efforts were made to adapt existing industrial structure and to diversify. The old industrial areas of Wallonia, on the other hand, went into decline. Since 1957, 118 coal mines have been closed, including all the mines in Wallonia. The last mine was closed on September 30, 1984. Two coal mines in the Kempen are still operative but are due to close in 1983. A number of textile and clothing companies have also disappeared because they could not compete with the low-wage country and the production of new man-made fibers. The steel industry had also been hard hit. Between 1960 and 1974, annual industrial growth averaged 5.4%, or a doubling of industrial output within 14 years. The chemical sector, wood, metal processing, machine building, and the steel industry scored even better, with growth figure around 8 to 10%. Non-ferrous metals, wood, textiles, and the agricultural sector were below the average. During the course of the next decade, industrial production stagnated and the average annual growth was barely 0.6%. Only the chemical industry managed to sustain high growth figures. The non-ferrous industry, metal production, food and paper were able to sustain positive growth. All other sectors saw a negative growth, and Belgian companies became less and less competitive. Many have to close down, lay off, or reorganize staff. Between 1974 and 1982, 381,000 jobs were lost in industry, which was 25% of the total. In 1982, the government intervened by devaluing the franc, imposing a pay freeze and establishing favorable conditions for attracting risk capital, and this process result. Companies became more competitive, and from 1985 onwards, investment in production increased. You can see a man lurking on a little ship, informatic chip. Diamond is forever. Centered mainly in and around Antwerp, the diamond industry in Belgium pride and joy. Antwerp has the greatest diamond maker in the world and the most important world center for the processing of large high-quality stones. That is more, it was a Belgian, Lodewijk van Berchem from Bruges, 15th century, who invented diamond polishing. There are 6 diamond schools in Antwerp. Trading revolves around 4 diamond exchanges. More than 95% of the diamonds are exported mainly to the USA, Japan, and Hong Kong. In these countries, cut in Antwerp is synonymous with quality. The world's smallest traditionally polished diamond is Belgian. It has 0.0006 carat and is 0.58 millimeters. Diameters have 57 faces. Transport. A year ago, most industries were located in the town or in the main waterways and railway links to ensure easy transport and roll of raw materials. Today, more and more industrial zones are being set up beside large transport infrastructure, port and all motorways, and on the outskirts of large towns in Belgium, these are about 500 individual industrial zones, together covering about 40,000 hectares. HHA. Most new industries are set up in these zones. In the period 1955 to 1986, 40% of total state investment in transport infrastructure went on road, 34% on public transport and 27% on waterways. 61% of goods transport is by road, 21% by rail, 61% over the waterway, and 3% by pipeline. Communication networks in kilometers. From 1970 to 1986. Railways 4,000 to 3,600. Waterways 1,500 to 1,500, a little bit ways. Road links 12,000 to 5,000, including motorways 411 to 1,549. Local railways 3,578 to 13,578 to 28,883. Then tramlines, trolleybus lines, etc. from 1,577 to 1,559. Pipeline from 60 kilometers to 286 kilometers. Goods transport according to means of transport in billions of tons per kilometers. From 1970 to 1988. Road from 12.8 to 25.2. Rail is 7.8 to 7.3 after increasing and decreasing. Inland waterways 6.7 to 5.4. Now, numbers of ships docking per port. From 1970 to 1988. Antwerp. Number it went from 19,150 to 60,000. Ghent went the tonnage of Antwerp is 54,000 to 135,000. In Ghent, the number went from 3,000 to 4,000. The tonnage went from 4,000 to 21,000. And in Bruges, it went from 4,000 to 9,000. And in tonnage, it was 9,000 to 48,000. Impressive. Energy. Its economic structure and climate make Belgium a high energy consumer. Over the years, the country has built up an enormous amount of expertise in the field of exploration, production, transport, and distribution of energy. Petrofina, an oil and petrochemical holding company with branches in 25 countries throughout the world, plays a major role in this sector. Until 1916, the Belgian coal provided the main source of energy in Belgium. Then oil became more important. In 1973, oil provided 85% of Belgium's total energy, compared with coal's 13%. Gas and oil exploration was carried out in the whole Belgium, but to no avail. It became clear from the oil crisis in 1973 to 74 and 1979 to 1981 that diversification was called for, and coal, this time imported, was given a second chance. More gas was used as well, with the Netherlands, Norway and Algeria as its most important suppliers. Since the end of the 70s, gas has supplied about a fifth of the country's total energy needs. Electricity also plays a large role in the modern welfare state, representing around a fifth of the total energy used. Belgium has only limited potential in means of water power, which means that most of the electricity plants are fed by other sources of energy. Until the beginning of the 60s, that was mainly Belgium coal. Later it was natural gas and petroleum. Since 1973 oil crisis, there has been a move toward faster development of nuclear plants for producing electricity. The first nuclear plant in Doel, along the river Scheldt, near Antwerp, came into operation in 1974. In 1975, a second plant was opened in Tihange, on the river Meuse, 30 km upriver from Liège. Both units were expanded later on. There are now 7 nuclear plants, which together account for 70% of the electricity produced. Service, an area of economic growth. The service sector consists of a range of economic activities which share the common characteristic of producing intangible, incorporeal goods. In 1970, 62% of the population was employed in the service sector. Now it is 70%. The main area of growth in the service sector is in the so-called public sector, also called the soft non-profit or non-market sector. It is a sector that makes goods and services available outside the marketplace, without the need for the customer to pay a price for them in actual monetary terms. This sector amounts for almost 30% of all jobs. Its growth can also be explained by the fact that in the 70s the government recognized its potential for reducing unemployment. The service sector comprises as many heterogeneous activities and is growing in almost all areas. Its so-called tertiarization is also making inroads into agriculture and industry. All large industrial enterprises have major commercial and advertising activities. In most cases, they also have financial and information technology department. A number undertake their own research or take part in research projects, sometimes together with universities. Telecommunication also play an important role here. The importance of telecommunication to the economy make itself felt in all areas: transport, storage, distribution, financial aspects, research, etc. The tremendous internationalization of services is a fairly recent phenomenon. In 1988, the National Railway Company, the Post Office and the Telegraph and Telephone Company employed a total of more than 120,000 people. 3/4 of the jobs in the tertiary sector are concentrated in the town. You can see IT stuff of people working and the woman that drives the plane, you know. The financial sector. At world level, Belgium is an important financial center. This is apparent from its many banks, the size of transactions on the stock exchange and the related ancillary businesses, such as insurance, leasing company, and the investment fund. Many of these international activities are centered in Brussels. To the south of Brussels, in Terhulpen, in the headquarters of the SWIFT, the Society of Worldwide International Financial Telecommunication, it is a company specialized in electronic message processing and transmission service between financial institutions throughout the world. SWIFT was founded in 1973 and had 4 members of staff. In first transaction dates back to 1977. Today SWIFT has 650 employees. It is heart of a world telecommunication network that coordinates the transmission of hundreds of thousands of payment transfers to more than 60 countries and 1,300 banks. In the financial sector too, we are beginning to see internationalization of a large scale. 67 of the 90 private banks with offices in Belgium are foreign-owned or largely so. Big foreign financial holding companies have considerable interest in the Belgian economy. Statistics. Development of payment transfer from 1970 to 1989. Check used in million from 36 to 115. Bank card in thousand 375 to 2000. Payment in card 1000. Bon contact Mr. Cash. In 1970, in 1980, 800, and in 1989, 4000. Cash dispensers. Bank contact Mr. Cash. Numbers of dispensers. From 392 in 1980 to 825. Number of withdrawals, thousands. In 1980 it was 7,000 and in 1999 it was 64,354. Now it's only from 1980 to 1989 because before it's not existing. Number of withdrawal per day per dispenser 46.8 to 200. Payment terminals. Number of terminals from 73 to 20,000. Number of transactions per thousand 134 to 60,000. Number of transactions per day per terminal from 5 to 8.2. Now, composition of the portfolio of the fourth largest holding companies in 1988. Financial services 47%. Energy 24%. Miscellaneous 13%. Other material 8%. Non-ferrous 8%.